Hello, Washington Elementary School District. I am Justin Wing from the Human Resources Department. Today's presentation will go over two different leave accrual types, one being your general leave, the other being your accrued sick bank. Before we begin the presentation, I want all employees to be aware that there were some changes made in this year's leave policies and procedures. There will likely be more changes coming in the following school year. These changes were a result of a recently passed proposition. As a reminder, in November 2016, Arizona voters approved Proposition 206. Proposition 206 is otherwise known as the Fair Wages and Healthy Families Act. This act has two components. One component is minimum wage, in which Arizona will see minimum wage increases in the upcoming years. The other component is known as earned sick leave. For the most part, our district exceeds the minimum requirements of earned sick leave. With that said, there were some details that requires us to make changes this year and likely more changes the following school year. And now to our presentation regarding two different leave accrual types, your general leave and your accrued sick bank. I already gave you a brief overview of Proposition 206, otherwise known as the Fair Wages and Healthy Families Act, which has two components, minimum wage and earned sick leave. Please know that notices for both minimum wage and earned sick leave are posted at each work location. As indicated in the WESD policies, regulations, and other expectations video, employees are required to be at work or on an approved leave. An approved leave means that the employee has leave accrued days or hours to use. The employee is using the leave accruals for reasons allowed, and the employee provided proper notification or received prior approval by his or her supervisor, depending on the leave type and purpose. An absence that does not meet these reasons is deemed as unapproved, unpaid absence. Again, there are two different leave accrual types. One will be general leave, and the other will be your accrued sick bank. Let's start with general leave. Special thanks to the district's interest-based negotiation team, otherwise known as the IBN team, for recommending the current general leave model. As a reminder, the IBN team consists of 7 certified personnel, 7 support staff, and 3 administrative voting members. This year, the IBN team will make recommendations of the general leave model to meet the Fair Wage and Healthy Families Act requirements. The IBM team will share information to employees once the team reconvenes in December. General leave accruals. 12-month employees receive 12 general leave days per year. Less than 12-month employees receive 10 general leave days a year. Salaried or exempt employees receive the general leave days at the start of the work year. Even though the salaried exempt employees get it up front, the employee has not necessarily earned the time. This is particularly important to those changing their work status mid-year, such as retiring, taking a leave of absence, etc. I provided an example. Let's say a 10-month salaried employee is retiring on December 31st. This employee did receive all 10 general leave days up front, but has only earned 5 as of December 31st. In essence, this individual earned a day in August, September, October, November, and December, despite getting them all up front. This is specific to hourly non-exempt employees. Hourly or non-exempt employees receive general leave days at the start of the year. As a case with salaried employees, even though the hourly non-exempt employee gets it up front, the employee has not necessarily earned the time. Moreover, there are exceptions for those hired during the fiscal year. New hire hourly employees hired between July and December earn days on a monthly basis for the remainder of the fiscal year. At the start of the following year, they would get them all up front. New hire hourly employees hired between January and June earn on a monthly basis for the remainder of the year and the following fiscal year. There are multiple reasons to use general leave days. As a reminder, the IBN team recommended that general leave be used for vacation purposes in 2014. Previous to 2014, general leave could not be used for vacation purposes. This year, to comply with the Fair Wages and Healthy Families Act, I have separated general leave into 3 categories. Category 1 specifies the reasons and other details per the Family Wages and Healthy Families Act To use the terms from the Act, I labeled Category 1 as the earned sick time. Category 2 has more reasons permitted with general leave, and it requires notification to the supervisor. Category 3 are additional reasons, but require prior approval by the supervisor. More details will come within this presentation. The Fair Wages and Healthy Families Act requires employers to provide details of the reasons to employees. As a result, here are the reasons that you can use general leave to comply with the Act. The employee can be absent using general leave for mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition, when there is a need for medical diagnosis, care, or treatment of a mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition, or when there's a need for preventative medical care. The employee can use general leave to care of a family member with mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition, to care of a family member when there's a need for medical diagnosis, care, or treatment of a mental or physical illness, injury, or health condition, to care for a family member in need of preventative medical care. Also, employees can use general leave for reasons related to child care, domestic violence, sexual violence, abuse or stalking, and legal services as described in Arizona Revised Statutes 23-373. The employee shall make a good faith effort to provide advance notice when absent for the purposes under earned sick time. Teachers and health service staff must also report their absence on ASOP, the substitute system, while all other employees report on the Kronos timekeeping system. Employees are to make a reasonable effort to schedule the use of general leave in a manner that does not unduly disrupt the operations of the district. Supervisors may request documentation if absent 3 or more consecutive days. Reasons for Category 2. There are more reasons an employee can use general leave. Employees can use general leave for bereavement, in addition to the days provided by the district. The employee can use it for an emergency situation. Also, employees can use general leave for religious observance purposes. If using general leave for the reasons outlined in Category 2, employees must provide a 72 hours notice to supervisor. If an emergency situation arises in which you are unable to provide 72 hours notice, you must inform your supervisor immediately when you are aware of the need to be absent. Again, teachers and health service staff must report on ASOP, the substitute system, whereas other employees are required to report the absence on the Kronos timekeeping system. If you are absent for 5 or more consecutive days for the reasons within Category 2, you must notify the Human Resources Department. Also, if there is reasonable concern, the supervisors may request supporting documentation at any time. Reasons for Category 3. Employees can use general leave for personal business and vacation. Unlike the other reasons, using general leave for personal business or vacation requires the pre-approval from your supervisor. The request must be made as soon as the employee is aware, but at least 1 week in advance. Although general leave can be used for personal business and most recently vacation, the IBN team recommended that the employee must get prior approval before purchasing airline tickets, booking a hotel room, etc. In recent years, employees have requested for a vacation as their family had purchased their airline tickets, as an example. This puts the supervisor in a compromising position. If you have a family that spontaneously purchased tickets or related vacation expenses, you should inform them that vacation must get pre-approved by your supervisor. Also, please note that there are protected days, similar to blackout days, that applies to the use of general leave for personal business or vacation. Supervisors may deny use of general leave for personal business and or vacation based on the following considerations. There's a conflict with workplace staffing requirements, the attendance record of that particular employee, previous requests made from that particular employee, the justification for the specific nature of the requested leave, and whether the request falls on a protected day and is it or is it not an extenuating circumstance. Please be aware that supervisors can determine additional protected days. If this is the case, the supervisor must notify employees in the beginning of the year the days in which the supervisor will not approve the use of general leave for personal business and or vacation. Protected days for Category 3, personal business and vacation. If employees are putting in a request, they must have extenuating circumstances to use general leave for personal business and or vacation. Please be aware that protected days are days before or after a holiday break, during week of state testing, site-specific parent-teacher conferences, during pre-week, during the first and last week of the instructional year, and again, other days determined by the supervisor. Here are a couple examples. Let's say an employee wants to take Friday before winter break to beat the traffic when going to Disneyland. Unfortunately, this is not considered an extenuating circumstance during the protected day. An employee wants to take Friday prior to winter break to attend a sister's wedding the next day. Yes, this would be considered an extenuating circumstance. An employee wants to take Friday prior to winter break to go holiday shopping. No, this is not an extenuating circumstance. Now to your accrued sick bank. Employees do not receive days by the district in their accrued sick leave bank. Any general leave not used during the current fiscal year accumulates as accrued sick bank. Any earned vacation days from the previous fiscal year that are not used by December 31 of the new fiscal year also accumulates as accrued sick leave. This is new for the 2017-2018 school year as recommended by your IBN team. Employees can accrue an unlimited number of days in their accrued sick bank. In the past, there was a maximum of 147 days. Leave in the accrued sick bank can only be used for the following reasons: for personal illness, for a child illness. It can also be used as a substitute for unpaid leave if the employee is eligible for leave under the Family and Medical Leave Act. When using your accrued sick bank, you must provide 72 hours notice to your supervisor unless an emergency prevents 72 hours notice. If that is the case, you must report your absence immediately upon knowing of the need to be absent to your supervisor. Teachers and health service staff must report on ASOP, the substitute system, while other employees must report on the Kronos timekeeping system. If you are absent 5 or more consecutive days, you must notify the Human Resources Department. Also, if there is reasonable concern, the supervisor may request supporting documentation to support your absence. General leave and accrued sick bank must be used in 15-minute increments. This is one of the changes to comply with the Fair Wages and Healthy Families Act. Teachers are no longer reporting a half-day or full-day absence. Teachers report for a period of time in which they are absent. Regardless of the period time, the school district does pay the substitute either a half-day or full-day. So when reporting an absence and requesting a sub, the teacher would still request for either 4 hours or 8 hours. This is a screenshot from ASOP, the substitute system. Quickly, teachers and health service staff on step 1 can report their specific time in 15-minute increments as to their absence. So in this example, the teacher is absent from 8 a.m. to 10:15 a.m. You would then break that link on step 2 and provide either a 4-hour or 8-hour time range for substitutes, because again, they get paid for half day or full day regardless. This allows the school to be flexible with the use of substitutes. For example, if the substitute is in this classroom from 8 a.m. to 10:15, however, they are there from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m., the school may ask that the substitute fill in for another absence while they're there. So again, as a reminder, report your absence from the period you're going to be out until the period you're going to return. And then when requesting for a substitute, if applicable, put in a time range of either 4 hours or 8 hours. Failure to notify your supervisor of any absence. Please be aware, failure to notify your supervisor of an absence will be reported as unapproved unpaid leave. If this is the case, the employee will not be paid for the absence, and the employee may be subject to discipline. As a reminder, in the beginning of this presentation, employees must be at work or on an approved leave. An employee may submit an appeal with documentation to Human Resources and his or her supervisor in support of use of the leave. Saving leave time. There are various reasons to save your leave time. Studies have shown there's a correlation between student and teacher interaction as it relates to student achievement. Interruption of interface between student and teacher negatively impacts student achievement. A substitute teacher can fill in for a teacher but cannot replace the teacher. Please be aware that the district spends over $2.3 million on overtime and substitute expenses. Reducing these expenses allows the districts to put the monies into salaries or fill other needs. Leave buyout. The IBN team made recommendations and the governing board approved changes going into the 2017-2018 school year. Employees severing employment with 10 or more consecutive years of service will receive payment for remaining leave days. Please be aware that previous to this school year, it was 15 or more consecutive years. Contact a Human Resources representative for more details. Another reason to save leave. Eligible employees may use general leave and/or accrued sick bank while absent due to a non-occupational injury or illness. You may also use general leave and/or accrued sick leave while you're on short-term disability or on an unpaid FMLA. Also, some employees do not purchase short-term disability coverage as they have enough leave days accrued to use if a long-term absence is needed. As a reminder, the leave policy will likely change going into the 2018-2019 school year to comply with the Fair Wages and Healthy Families Act. The IBN team will make necessary recommendations to comply with the Act. If you have any questions, please contact a Human Resources representative.